Hello and welcome to Luke's Someone Books and Studios. My name is Luke, of course, and we are going to be continuing with the website. Actually, I was thinking of finishing it off, and then I actually realized I could do some kind of load more functionality with the news page, like dynamic loading. So I think we'll do that before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of the content management system and start using C#. Yes, I know. But anyway, we shall continue on. Okay, so as mentioned in the intro video, we are going to begin doing this Ajax functioning for loading more news articles in our news page. So if we were to go over here, let's say, for example, we have more than 6 items, let's say in a category, for example. So that might be the maximum number of items that we might have on a category page. Oh, excuse me. Then what we might have later on is have this load more button at the bottom. So when we click it, it would communicate with the server, and we would be able to get more results, and we would page it and number it and make sure that we get obviously the next page, let's say, if there is more, of course. So that we would obviously have to check if there is more or not, and if so, to display the button. And the way that I'm going to do that, obviously, there's quite a lot to explain, so I'll explain it as we go. So I'm going to go back into my Heidi SQL, and I am going to take a look at our news and just duplicate a load of stuff. So I've got all of these test featured items here, and I've just refreshed that, obviously. So let's take a look. So yeah, we've got that featured, so we know that the date posted, we've got our order correct with regards to our date posted and time posted. It's getting the latest one, and it's setting all of the others featured to 0, which is exactly the behavior that I was expecting. And if we were to go over to this screen, we have some test featured examples under general. And if we were to go into general, we've got, well, a lot of them. So let's say, for example, we wanted to limit this to 6 instead of what we're seeing here, right? And the reason I'm going to limit it to 6 is because, let's say, for example, we decided to go to here, we would have 3 rows, right? But we don't want any more than that. And in this context, maybe no more than 2 rows, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. I think that seems fair. So I think I was just thinking then, actually, that seems a little too squished, don't you think? So I'm just going to adjust that slightly. So I'm going to make this 60% instead. I think that seems a bit more reasonable. So if I were to then minimize that, yeah, that seems a little bit more reasonable. I think I prefer that, because now it's no longer squishing too well. It's squishing quite a lot at that point, so maybe 85%. Yes. It's quite mesmerizing, actually, looking at that. But anyway, so I think that's fine. There's just one tad adjustment that I want to do to the news items, which will be to margin it, or I think it would actually be box item technically speaking. So we've got this margin auto, but then I also want to apply some margin to the bottom of, let's say, 8 pixels. That looks fine. Eight pixels. I think that's the magic number. I think that's the magic number. Okay, so I think we'll leave it like that for the time being. So that looks good. So that's the result. We haven't got, obviously we haven't got a load button yet, so that's the first thing to add to each of these categories, right? So we'll test it for the categories. We're not going to test it in this case because technically we'll have 3 items here. If there's more than 3 items, then we should probably make sure that we only display 2 instead of 1, instead of 3, and have this last item to be view more. I think that would probably make more sense. So what's our test looking like? So yeah, I'm just going to use this for the time being, this test.html file that we produced yesterday. So in here, I'm going to go down here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this box item twice, which is, let's see, here, I think. Yeah, that is right. Okay, so I'm going to paste this twice, and in here I'm going to get rid of that, maybe just get rid of that entirely, and then say here view more, and if this is a view more, I'm actually going to have a class called view more. I already even have a class called view more. It's interesting. Okay, well, and that URL would technically be, you know, category followed by, you know, the actual category name, like that, right? And then obviously if we were to click on that, we would go to the category. Okay, so our other screen, I really do hope I did not mess up that recording. That would be terrible. So what I'm then going to do is close that. So that there. Okay, so I just want to make sure and check that that's all correct. So let's bring up our folder, open up PowerShell, and I am going to build that. And let's see what happens when we navigate to our home page. So we've got our view more. I did forget to actually add the view more class. So our view more is there, but we didn't actually add the class in the HTML. So let's just quickly fix that. So that's our view more, compile, and then test. No. There we go. So there we have it. We've got our view more because we've got more than 3 items. If it was just literally 3 items, then we should, in theory, have just 3 items there, right? In fact, we could just test that with the with, let's say, category 2 or something. So let's say I have 3 items here, and I make them all like that. So I should just see 3 items when I refresh under development. Oh no, okay, that's not quite right. What did I do? It's greater than 3. Greater than 3, that's what I meant. Greater than 3, not greater than or equal to. Greater than 3 is what I meant. I was thinking of it as being 0 based, but it's not. So if I were to compile that and take a look at the results, in theory, yes. So we'd have just 3 items there, and in the case that we don't, then we have this view more, right? So that makes more sense. Cool. So if we were to click on view more, for example, and we were to take a look at general, and we have, what's it doing that for? Come on, sort out. Did I save the CSS file? What's going on? Clearly I didn't save the CSS file. Refresh. Refresh. There we go. You have to hold Shift and F5 in order to reload all the resources. It's kind of annoying sometimes. But anyway, so we've got all of these examples. So I want to limit this to 6 for starters. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, now that we've crossed this path, let's think about this. What's the best way to do this? So where are we? Back up to news. That's what I want. So news. I suppose we would do it in the form of search as well. So in the form of search, we don't actually have a limit for our search results. So we could, I suppose it would be fine to have it the same as search results. But instead of generating HTML, what I would do is actually generate JSON instead. I think that's... So we wouldn't do it by Ajax, we would just generate the JSON in JavaScript context. Does that make sense? And we would just take a look at the JavaScript context. We would determine sort of the results. So we'll figure that out. So what I'll do up here is I'm going to have a default of fields.set, and I'm going to say JavaScript code, right? And by default that's just going to be empty, like the same with additional keywords and styles. And then down here I'm going to say, because we've got where is it? I'll eventually get there in the end. There we go. So we've got this thing called parse values, right? So we've got our document title, meta description, additional keywords. So we're going to have JavaScript code, right? And that's basically just going to be page.fields.get and then, you know, JavaScript code. It's basically the same thing. And then what that would do is when if we were to go to here, for example, and get our header file up, what I would put in here is an additional script. Obviously that's going to have to be of type text JavaScript, and in here I would actually put in JavaScript code like that, obviously, because there's no type checking, we would have to make sure that the JavaScript code is valid, otherwise it's not going to work. And we're not going to know that unless we test it. So what I'm going to do now is, if we go up here to, let's say, our news page, so we're going to do it with the category first. So we have no limit, so that's fine. Actually, what am I talking about? No, that is right. What? So we've got our category content right, and we've got what we're getting every single news item right. We want to get all the news items, and instead of generating this HTML, I'm actually going to generate JavaScript. So instead, what I'm going to do is, instead of doing all this, this is fine. We'll keep this like this. And in the case of here, again, I'm going to keep that like that. But in the case of the JavaScript, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for. Now, I've actually got a generator, which I showed you yesterday. That was this begin structure here. So I've actually expanded on all of this. I've populated it all. And as you can see over here, we've actually got no data folder anymore. So this is all generating the codes correctly. Otherwise the website wouldn't work. So that's a little taste of Haxe and how that works. Now, that being said, what I was about to say was all of this is actually generating a function within each of these structures called toTypeDef, which we can use to, as say, a structure that we can use for the client, which we will actually use as well. So this generator function I'm actually going to use in JavaScript context as well. So I'm going to copy this and put this in here so that when we actually come to generating the JavaScript code, we'll be able to use that typedef in JavaScript context as well as this context as well. And this is the beauty of Haxe, really, in my eyes. So in this context, what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate over each of the news items. So news in news for category. And as mentioned, we've got this toTypeDef, which is what we're going to use. And as you can see, it's actually giving us a shared.tnews. So if I were to actually show you that, shared.tnews, sort of. Let me show you. So JSON data is shared.tnews, and that's going to be equal to news.toTypeDef. Okay. So as you can see, we've that's compiling correctly. Otherwise, we would get a compile error. So if I were to then go there, we are actually getting every single one of these variables that we get exactly as expected from here as well. So you can see where this could be potentially useful. Now, what I'm going to do is, let's see. Now we've got this okay, I need to fix something because I just realized something a minute. Hang on. I'm going to go back to Haxe a minute because I just realized something. Inside of Builder, because currently the way that the type defs work is it's just assigning every single variable. In the case of date, that's not going to work. That actually has to be a string in the case of the JSON file. So what I'm going to do firstly is, so this is sdate here. Date is going to have to be string in the case of that. Same with date time as well, because it's a structure, and JSON in Haxe doesn't interpret the same structure and parse it correctly. Only the date time only parses strings, not structures. So I need to be a bit careful about that. So I need to make sure of that. And another thing I need to change is down here. Let's see. Inside of, so build shared, that's going to be fine because we're going to get the identifier and the type, and that type is going to be string, so that's going to be fine. It's inside of here where we generate the toTypeDef function, which is this. So we've got this e field, which we are getting this followed by whatever the name is, the shared type member name. Now, if that shared type member name happens to be of a type sdate, so if type what's the best way to do this? I suppose what I could do, I mean, I've got this local type fields here. Why do I even have a shared type members? I could just iterate over that. Never mind. I suppose it doesn't really matter. What I'll do is get the type. So type, which is going to be whatever get server type returns. Let's just take a look at that a minute. What's that returning? Server types, which is what exactly? It's been a while since I've touched this document, I got to admit. Server types, where are we? Complex type, right. So it's literally just a complex type. Okay. So I'm going to say complex type here, and that's going to equal type fields I, and I am going to retrieve the kind from that, which is obviously going to be fvar type. Kind. I think type fields. Oh no, what am I doing? No, I just want the this type here, which would be the part of the switch statement. Okay, hang on a minute. So I need to get the kind first, then I need to, so I'm gonna say complex type is going to be equal to null for the time being, and then hopefully that will compile. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say switch on the kind, and the fvar is whatever our type is, so t, and so all I want to do is make sure that the, so if the underscore t, let's just double check that on, that's the Haxe share GitHub page, by the way. So if I were to go here and go to API documentation, Haxe macro, let's see. Fvar, where is it under? Is it just here? No. Can't remember. Oh my god. What am I doing? Expression? No, wait. Hang on a minute. What's this? No. Seriously. Here it is, right. So fr. Oh yeah, and the complex type, that's what I was looking for. Duh. So oh god. Oh, I'm gonna have to switch against that as well. It's probably going to be T path, I would think. Is there a better way to check the complex type? Maybe complex type to string, maybe in context, perhaps. Is there a function in here that takes complex type? It's taken a while. Resolve type. I'm not sure that's quite what I'm looking for. Corresponding type. What's this? Oh, and then we could possibly do. Right. Okay. Okay. I think we could perhaps use this. Represents a position in a file. I suppose context dot get make a get position. What is it? It's something. I know what I'm talking about. Current position. That's what I meant. Right. This goes to show I'm tired today. I shouldn't really be recording when I'm tired, but I feel like I'm in a good mood despite the fact that I'm tired. But anyway, so I'm going to attempt to use resolve type in this instance. So what I'm going to do is say var resolved is equal to context.resolve type. So we're going to pass in that t followed by context.current position. That should be fine. And then what I'm going to do is if std.is resolved sys.db dot types dot sdate sdate, right? Or it could also be the other thing. The other thing. So in I think it was sdate time, maybe. I think that's probably what I meant. So in this case, what I want to do is basically say, well, the expression of what we want to obtain from this field is actually going to be well, something else. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to paste it up here. And if we are in this instance, then e is instead going to equal to, and expression is going to be, and is it going to be e field again, or I suppose it technically would be an equal. We had that before actually. Expression definition. Okay. Field access on e.field, but then I also want to call it as well using the toString. So equal e expression followed by params. Okay, so how would I go about doing that? This could get messy. This could get fairly messy. So it's going to be a call on that expression, which is going to be, so we're going to be wrapping quite a few expressions here by the looks of it. There's probably a better way to do this. Unfortunately, I mean, I've tried this kind of thing before where I've tried to use reification on this kind of thing, and whenever I've tried doing it on an anonymous structure, it just keeps failing on me. And this seems to be the only way to work around it, by going through this process of assigning an expression of type e object decal with this, followed by a key value pair. So this is technically the key expression, and this is the key value pair expression here, if that makes sense. And then the key value pairs are combined into an anonymous structure in this instance, and then that is being used there to make up that anonymous structure that we're then assigning to this data and then returning it, if that makes any sense to you. And I want to keep that because that seems to be the only way to resolve it, because type reification doesn't work with colons, and it's actually really annoying. So there seems to be the only way to do it. And so so expression is going to be equal followed by another expression. So we don't have any params because it's just a toString. So we want an expression inside of an expression inside of an expression. So inside of this expression, we're going to have e field, which is going to have another expression. So this is going to be toString, and in here we're going to have an expression which is going to be macro this name, right? So that's, oh wait a minute, what am I doing? No, that needs to be expression as well. Oops. So that needs to be an expression. That needs to be an expression of e field as well. So I almost got that wrong. Like that, and then we've got that. I know this looks kind of confusing. So basically, I'm generating a field to access this dot and then the field name, and then another field expression over this dot name to access to string against that, if that makes sense. And then we're calling it. Right? Hopefully that makes some sense. That looks, hang on a minute. Oh God. This needs to be like, so E field, that's just, okay, so that's a macro. So that needs to be a macro because that's an expression. Wait, no, what am I talking about? This already is an expression. I'm confusing myself now. This is already an expression because we're doing the actual type def in this instance. So what I now need to do is, oops. God, this is confusing. So we're doing the expression here as well. So we're doing that expression, and then we're assigning that to toString. We'll get there in the end. And then that needs to be wrapped around like that, right? And then that needs to be wrapped around like that. Now each of these expressions, I believe, well, the E fields don't need to have a position, I don't think. But the actual expression type, this expression type does. So I need a position here. That is technically wrong. That needs to be like that, and that. Okay. Hang on. This is so confusing. So that needs to be like that, right? Then I need a position there, right? Context.current position. This is so amusing. Like that, right? Then what I need, so that's an E field. So that's the expression followed by this, right? So that's the toString, followed by this, which is then this, right? I hope this kind of makes some sense. Probably not. Context.current path. And then the eCall is this bit, so I want to get rid of that now. And yeah, get rid of this. This should be correct now, I believe. Okay, I think I've got there. So let's see what happens when we compile. No, still had a mistake somewhere. 3, 4, 5. Where's this mistake? Oh, that needs to be a case. Oh God. 353 expected. 353. Well, that's why that's there. What? Okay, I'm confused now. But then again, I was confused before anyway. So we've got two E fields, right? So we've got an E field which takes an expression. So this macro generates an expression which is taking this, which is mname, right? That's an expression. This is also an expression. This is a literal type expression which takes the field's expression and position. Oh, I'm forgetting the comma, that's why. 356. Probably just forgetting another comma somewhere. No. What's going on now? God. I'm going to reformat this slightly so that I can see what I'm doing properly. I'm going to have four. Oh. What just happened there? Like that. Right. I'll be able to see better now. Okay, so got this expression which is there. We've got this expression which is there. That comma I'll put there just to make it obvious. I actually don't know what's going on. Huh. What was it complaining about? 359 it's complaining at now. 359. It's complaining here. Wait, what? Expected? Why are you expecting that when you're already seeing it? What? That doesn't make sense. Oh. I did. No, that semicolon doesn't need to be there. Okay, now we've got problems. So we are making progress. Unmatched patterns. Oh, for God's sake. Default. Don't care about the other ones. Okay, what now? Object requires field position. 350. 350. That's right. So that also needs a position. Current pass like that. And we're still expecting that for some reason. What? What am I doing? What am I doing today? What is wrong with me? Right. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So sdate time should be null string. Very helpful, Haxe. Very, very helpful. You see, sometimes I stumble across an error and then I have to redo everything I did because the error doesn't tell me anything at all. Well, I mean, it is telling me something. It's saying sys.db.sDateTime should be null string, but it's not telling me where. It's just saying unknown. Maybe that's in the generated code. But then, why would that be the case? Am I not calling toString, even though that's technically what I was asking for? Is that... are we not generating that call? You see, it would be nice to be able to actually see what the generated real code is. Is there a way to do that? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think there's a way to do that. Not that I'm aware of. I'm just going to take a quick look, and if not, I guess I'll have to just, I don't know, do something. I might have to consult the forums on this issue and do the rest of the recording later, which is less than ideal, but this video is probably getting on anyway, so it probably might be a good idea. It's amazing how easily sidetracked you get. I don't see a way to generate the code directly from an expression, so that I can see what the generated code is and figure things out from there. There. Okay. I am defeated for the time being. Okay, well, hopefully you've learned something from this. You've probably learned from some of my mistakes and perhaps learned from what I've been trying to do with regards to Haxe macros. This is probably not the best tutorial on Haxe macros. I'll probably do a proper actual tutorial series on Haxe macros, because this is quite complex stuff. It's not exactly easy to learn. Once you get the gist of it, it starts to get a bit easier once you understand how it all works. But after a while, when you begin with Haxe macros, it can be a bit daunting, to say the least. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. The next video will in fact be completing the website properly, and then we'll go on to the content management system using C# and WinForms. Yes, I know, I'm weird. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I'll see you next time.